is it about a place that makes it special, that gives it character, and makes you want to put down roots there? Well, ever since the year 1848, people of diverse backgrounds have chosen to put down their roots in Williamson County, Texas, near the San Gabriel River, at a spot called Georgetown. County historian and author Clara Scarborough has devoted years to the study of Georgetown's history and development.
Georgetown became the commercial and governmental center of a rural area. Those who came to Williamson County and to Georgetown came here to stay, building homes and raising and educating their families. A legacy of their houses has endured.
Today, dozens of Georgetown structures, both commercial and residential, spanning the years from the mid-1870s to the 1930s, have received special recognition. By being part of Georgetown's 3 National Register districts, by being listed on the National Register of Historic Places, or by displaying a Texas State Historical Medallion. But these buildings represent only one part of a large number of well-crafted homes set in lovely tree-lined neighborhoods, which give Georgetown its special charm. Log houses were the earliest permanent structures, built by the first settlers who came mostly from the southern states. These sturdy, simple buildings were put to many uses. Even Georgetown's first courthouse was a log cabin. Before long, Georgetown's tradition of craftsmanship began to be established, with houses and stores constructed of stone. Many fine craftsmen came from Europe. This large stone farmhouse, built by Swedish immigrant J.J. Johnson, has stood atop Rabbit Hill on the outskirts of Georgetown since the 1860s. The back of the house faces west and was designed to keep out the summer sun. While much of the rich blackland prairie around Georgetown is still used for farming and ranching, just as it was in the 19th century, the pressures of modern development encroach ever closer. In town at 611 Church, C.A.D. Clamp, a skilled carpenter and stonemason, built the original 2-room stone portion, which is now almost concealed by a charming frame exterior added in the 1890s. This house at 1309 College began as a 2-room limestone house in the 1860s. A later owner added a frame structure across the front to expand the living space and to reflect the taste of the 1890s. Soon, events began to transform the modest village into a bustling rural town. Sowell College, now named Southwestern University, decided to relocate in Georgetown. The coming of the railroad in 1878 connected the growing community with markets all over the state. Boom times for the cattle and cotton industries meant yet another economic boost for the Georgetown area. Handsome buildings, many with fine detailing, sprang up around the downtown square. The families of successful businessmen and ranchers reflected the new prosperity with parades and outdoor gatherings. The early tradition of fine building was continued by local, independent builders and larger lumber companies. Verna Cook was born in Georgetown in 1898.
My father worked for the Belford Lumber Company until he was 89 years old. He was proud to build houses that were well crafted and wood laced.
The more we learn about our legacy, the more we can appreciate and enjoy it. Georgetown's historic homes generally fall into 3 categories: vernacular, high style, and popular. Vernacular homes are the types most common to a given region. They reflect the life of the people there, in their lifestyles and their tastes. This is what Georgetown looked like 100 years ago. You're facing west. The standpipe is in the middle of the photograph, showing the downtown area. Most of the homes are quite plain and simple, 1-story and 2-story wooden houses set on large lots. These homes are examples of vernacular architecture and are similar to others built throughout the South at the time, like this house, with a two-room center passage. Porches and shutters were added to keep the houses cool in the Texas sun. Later additions, like lean-tos, expanded the living space. Embellishments such as bay windows, many styles of porch trim, and other Victorian detailing were used to fancy up a home. Simple houses like these were built and enjoyed in Georgetown from the late 19th century until about 1930.
Georgetown was never a wealthy town in its earlier years. It was built mostly by businessmen, substantial and stable. They believed in a good education. They wanted the best for their families.
904 Ash, built in 1880, is a simple one-story frame house with a central hall. The detailing on the small single-bay porch gives an elegant feeling to the house of a physics professor, Robert Heyer, who conducted early experiments with X-rays. 1302 College looks very different, yet is also a small wood frame house with a central hall. One of the oldest remaining frame buildings in Georgetown, it's been in the Whatley family several generations. Francis Mayo has lived across the street for over 50 years.
The Whatley children refuse to let anyone cut down that old burdock tree. They say it is a part of the house and the family.
L-plan houses were very common in Georgetown. With a 3-bay porch and shed roof, 813 Church stands intact, one of the city's least altered examples. It has charming turned wood posts and jigsaw brackets. Other examples of L-plan houses in Georgetown show variations in Victorian trim and porch treatments. The Caswell House at 207 East 9th shows how color can bring out the trim detailing. To the black community, the church was the most important structure. Wesley Chapel was built by the congregation in 1904. Reverend Roger Givens and his wife have helped restore the chapel.
They built this church with their hands. The preacher was a carpenter, and they paid for everything in cash. They formed a nail committee for the little boys who helped provide nails. These people had some art.
Many vernacular homes in the black community were what we call the shotgun house. It has a distinctive front-to-back arrangement of rooms, which can be traced to Haiti. There used to be rows and rows of these shotgun houses in Georgetown. Now only a few remain, reminding us of the importance of preserving Georgetown's historic homes. Large vernacular houses were also constructed during this period. In 1886, lumberman George Irvin built his home at 409 East University. Irvin, his wife, and children are standing in front of their new home. Berna Cook is Irvin's granddaughter.
I remember the summer house, and my Aunt Etta had a tennis court here. That house is just 12 years older than I am.
Over the years, the house went through some difficult times. Randy Wright and his wife Donna have restored the house.
During the winter time, we work on the inside, and during the summertime, we work on the outside of the house. I've had to duplicate all that sawtooth up there and some of the scroll work also. It's just a personal challenge to fix up an old house like this.
The house at 1531 Ash is another example of a two-story vernacular with fine Victorian detailing. Built for successful rancher D.D. Fowler and his family, its basic form is still intact, although the porch and the south bay have been altered. It's still a good place to raise a family. Large vernacular houses were built outside Georgetown, too. A later example is this 2.5-story farmhouse built for J.M. Page in 1903. A handsome house with strong lines. It was way out of town then. Now it's surrounded by modern development. High-style architecture was brought to Georgetown by builders like Belford, Griffith, and Harrell. For his own home at 1230 Austin, Belford chose the Queen Anne style, which uses a lot of fanciful ornamentation. High style means built by an architect or copied from pattern books, usually with highly elaborate details. One very early example in Georgetown is this Italianate house at 1220 Austin, which was built in 1879. Builder G.S. Griffith built a Queen Anne house at 1002 Ash, and Henry Harrell chose this style for his own home at 1404 Elm. With its exceptional architectural detailing, it was well suited for his wife's social gatherings. The second owner, W.F. McGee, a merchant on the square, and his wife, Tommy, an artist, lived there for 30 years. 1312 Elm and its next-door neighbor, 1308 Elm, are almost identical. That's because the families were such good friends.
Many of us recognize the outstanding houses, the elegant, large homes from the past, but we often fail to note the charm and historic interest of the smaller, more modest homes. Our history would not be what it is today if the average person hadn't built these simple, good houses.
After the turn of the century, most new homes in Georgetown were built in what is called popular styles. These were styles so popular that they're found today all across the nation without any real regional variation. A number of fine Georgetown homes in the popular tradition can be described as four square, like the Wilcox home at 1307 Olive, built in 1913. Even now, as then, it has a spacious backyard. D.K. Wilcox was part owner of Wilcox Brothers Book and Jewelry Store. His daughter, Hallie Wilcox, remembers the animals the family kept.
Behind the house were fields 1 city block in size, where my father kept sheep, hogs, goats, and cows. There was a barn out in the back, and a vegetable garden and a sugarcane patch.
We are fortunate to have the Belford Company's contract books, which provide a wealth of information on the cost of labor and materials used in constructing hundreds of Georgetown buildings, including the Wilcox House. In 1912, Berna's father, A.W. Salur, who kept those contract books for Belford, built this Georgian plan, four-square house for his family.
My father built this style of house for a smaller sum in order to prove that large houses could be built for not too much money.
Berna was a teenager when they moved in.
I remember we had lots of parties there. Mama just opened up the house to everyone.
Another example of popular architecture is this eclectic design house, built in 1907 for Dr. W.C. Vaden, a professor at Southwestern University. Two other popular styles of architecture changed the face of towns all across America, right at the time when the idea of the suburb was taking hold. By far the most common was the bungalow, like the one at 1903 Austin. The bungalow originated in India, where the word bangla means a low house with galleries or porches all around. 1602 Maine has a totally different look in many ways, but it is also a bungalow because of its horizontal lines, overhanging eaves, and skirted foundations. 911 Walnut, the best example of the bungalow style in Georgetown, has wide overhanging eaves, exposed rafter ends, and well-crafted details. Another popular style which swept the United States was the prairie style. In Georgetown, this style usually is found fused with traditional vernacular and bungalow elements, as in the house at 1242 Austin. Next door, at 1252 Austin, we can see how the carport was created by extending the overhanging eaves. One street over, 1252 Main, has a flat roof and a spacious front gallery for enjoying afternoons shaded from the sun.